episode 3, Learn English with Dr. Sewell. So today we're going to be looking at fewer versus less. This has been a very complicated topic for many people, not just non-English speakers, but also English speakers. So we're going to look at how we use these words correctly. So the most common mistake you'll find is in the supermarket. So for example, you go to the supermarket and there's a line that's labeled 10 items or less. That's actually wrong. Now, why is this wrong? So we use less when we talk about things that are non-count, and we use fewer when we talk about items that are count. So in episode 4, if you join me in episode 4, we will discuss the many different options for count nouns, non-count nouns, what they are, and how we use them a little bit more specific. So going back to what I just mentioned, when the line says 10 items or less, it's wrong, because if you can quantify the item by counting the items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then we would use fewer. So the line should state 10 items or fewer. Now, let's break it down a little bit more. If you can actually count something one by one, you need to use fewer. If you cannot count it because it's a broad category, then you use less. So for example, if you think about water, we would use less with water. So if you were to say, I want less water, that's fine. But if you wanted to talk about bottles of water, you would say, I need fewer bottles of water. So water is a very broad category. Water cannot be quantified unless it's in a bottle or a container or a cup. So if you're talking about water in general, then you definitely use less. So any item that you talk about in a general sense that's not quantifiable, then you use less. The minute you can quantify the item, for example, oranges or apples, those items you can count. I can say I want 3 oranges or I want 2 apples. The fact that you can quantify those items, then you use fewer. So I want fewer oranges. I want fewer apples. Because water is a general category like rice or sugar. You cannot quantify it unless it's in a container or by the pound. So rice, you would say, I want 3 pounds of rice. So you can say, I want fewer pounds of rice. But in general, you can just say, I want less rice in my plate. You cannot say, oh, I want fewer rice in my plate. No, because you cannot quantify it if it's in a general form. So we use fewer when we talk about items that are count, items that you can physically count them one by one, and we use less when you cannot count the items. So the next time you think about making a statement about fewer or less, always remember, can I count it? I will use fewer. If I cannot count it, then I definitely need to use less. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys in episode 4, where we will talk about count versus non-count nouns. See you then.